Hello, KFC SuperCoaches. It's the Pre-Lockout podcast, round 11. The buys are coming up. Origin's coming up. It is hotting up in SuperCoach. Are you making any trades this week?
I'm not, Thomas, and I'm excited. We've been told by the audio people we have to speak a little bit louder. We need to project more firmly. So that's what I'm going to do right now.
There's going to be some distortion on the mic. Rocking a nice new shirt there, which I'm sure we'll get plenty of comments. Send through your comments, sledges, all that sort of stuff. We'll get to it very shortly.
But no,
for now,
no trades. No trades at all this week.
Yeah, same with me. No trades. Looking through this, it's going to make a very boring podcast, isn't it? But looking through this list, nothing really stands out for me. If I didn't have Isaiah Papali'i, I think he'd be a must, but I own him already. So no trades for me as well.
Do you have Cotter?
No, I'm going to, at hooker, I've got Cook and Harry Grant. So I'm going to stick with those guys for the entire season. That's the plan.
Okay.
Although I could still bring him in the back row. So we'll wait and see what happens. But I'm not moving this week. I'm going to save up my trade boosts and my trades for that all-important buy round in round 13. Let's run through the most purchased players. Ruben Cotter is number one.
That was the goal. I was trying to segue there for you. Yeah.
It just works so well. The preparation we've done for this podcast today is elite. Extremely busy morning for both of us, which means we did nothing.
It's been a very busy day.
Which is generally when Rob goes just tries to make up for lack of knowledge by going absolutely loose.
This is not true. This is not true. I go loose because I am loose on the whole. I'm not doing it to make up for a lack of knowledge. I have that, but I just enjoy myself. I get onto this show and the lights come on and I'm like, let's just go for it, Thomas.
Showtime.
Showtime. Ruben Hurricane Cotter. Look, I've got him. I got him a few weeks ago. Really happy. Base is great. Was pretty good at lock. Has been better since he's been at prop. I do worry maybe a tad that the last 2 weeks, Jason Taomalolo's played limited minutes while they were, I believe, resting him for this fortnight, which is Storm, then Panthers. And if they're a top 4 team, they want to really show up against these two. So, long story short, I think maybe he's gone to his very peak the last 2 weeks, but even if he comes off 10%, I'd be happy.
No questions have come through yet. Send them through on the Facebook Live. Lots of people watching, but no questions yet, and no sledges yet as well. So please send them through. I'm sure.
Why do you do that? Like, it's just cruel.
It's cruel.
It's cruel.
That's what we want. We want banter. That's what SuperCoach is about. Moving
on. Why don't we try being nice to each other? Let's embrace our SuperCoach community, right? And find the things we like about people and tell people that.
It would be a pretty
boring... There'll be no comments for the rest of the show. Probably. All right.
No, still no comments. Lots of people watching. So send them through, guys. Isaiah Papali'i is the second most purchased player. I think if you don't own him, get him in. I know he doesn't cover 13, but he's just so far ahead. 260 points ahead at prop. So if you don't have him, you're losing out, and he'll make up the points that he misses on that buy round very quickly.
Doesn't cover 13, does cover 17.
And he won't get rested backing up from Origin and all that sort of stuff because he won't play Origin.
Exactly. I suppose the only one of their forwards that will go into Origin will probably be Junior Baolo, I think is how it's meant to be pronounced now. So, maybe there's a risk that Papali'i goes into the middle. There's a bit of cover there, but even there, I don't think it really matters. He's a bit like the old Tohu Harris. He'll play middle, he'll play edge, he'll just work.
Lots of love coming through for the shirt. Ryan actually says, that's a lovely shirt, Robert.
Thank you, Ryan.
With an exclamation mark. Mark Sinclair says, pajamas again, really? And then we have some actual questions. Oh, we got a sledge for me. Hey, Tom, I warned you that the Broncos would stop Tommy Turbo, but you didn't read my message. Look, the Broncos are killing it. I didn't realise that they would go that well up there in Magic Round, but Tommy Turbo was clearly carrying some sort of niggle. I thought it was couldn't get involved.
A bit much for them to send out a crowd member to cork him so thoroughly that he had to hobble for the rest of the game. But what can you do? You cannot beat the Broncos. They are a force. They're a powerhouse. They have beat nobody this year. They're not that good.
Dylan Brown or Cody Walker? Would you like either of them? I've got Cody Walker. Dylan Brown is a guy who I feel like they've got a tough run coming up at the Eels. So I wouldn't be going for Dylan Brown. Plus, he doesn't play 13. Cody Walker won't play Origin, and he'll be really handy for 17. I feel like he's just about something's about to happen there.
I think Cody's the more mercurial. Dylan's probably the safer. The Rabbitohs, have had a nice run. They've got a sort of a pretty decent finish. The Eels are the same. They've got a pretty decent finish and a little tough in the middle. One's going to play this bye, one's going to play the next. I reckon it's a struck match between them.
Rob Gibson is asking, is it time to buy Taomalolo? Now, look, I think he is a must before round... maybe not a must, but he's a good buy before round 13. You mentioned on the Teams podcast that yesterday that he's probably getting saved by Todd Payten.
That's what I think's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see he played the first stint, then they had the game in the bag, and they just didn't roll Lolo out again. Look, before the last 2 weeks where he did play reduced minutes, he was averaging 64 to 68s. Like, he was scoring well. He was doing most of it in base. I think he's a legit, front row forward 3 with dual position flexibility. So he's probably a top 22 player for mine. I don't think he's there in your mind. I don't think you rate him as highly as I do. But I think if they let him play out this time, he's a keeper.
Joey Manu, third most purchased player. Look, I have other issues with my team and I want to save some trades, so I'm not getting on Joey this week. I can see the appeal, though. He scored the most points at centre wing, covers round 13. It all looks good for him. He's certainly on my radar heading into 13. I just want to save a couple of trades this week so that we get a clearer view of what's actually going to happen in that bye round.
And he'll play 13 at fullback, which, Joey has traditionally scored, or traditionally is a bit much, in the 4 or 5 games that he's played there, has scored well. He outscores himself playing wing and fullback than he does at centre. I assume he's going to be the fullback. I think he's the most logical pick there. I don't think they put Swaley in at fullback, especially when they can just run the Gama there. So, look, is he a good buy? Yeah, he's a good buy, but he's pretty expensive. I think I kind of prefer Ruben Garrick at roughly the same money, also covering you in 13, also playing fullback in 13, but he's goal kicking and he's playing the Warriors, which is a better matchup.
Moving on to Ryan Madison. You're pretty keen on him. I am as well. It's just that it doesn't cover 13, so he's not quite on my radar at the moment. I've probably got someone like Taomalolo or Kikau even, and certainly Cotter ahead on the pecking order for me.
You don't hear this from me very often, Thomas. I was wrong.
There we go.
It's in the spirit of kindness and openness and, the brotherhood of the SuperCoach and the sisterhood of the SuperCoach. I was wrong. Someone asked me in the blog last week, what do you think of Ryan Madison? I said, look, I don't really like him playing in the middle off the bench. I think he's too heavily reliant on attacking stats. And then he went and pumped out 60 plus in base in 50-odd minutes. He's ripping it up. I suppose your only fear in Ryan Madison right now is he ripping it up enough that he becomes like 19th man for the Blues. He's shown he can play in the middle. He can definitely play second row. At a pinch, he can play centre. He's been in the camp before as 18th man, so that's a fear.
With a bunch of injuries, he could even play 5'8" or in the halves, which he has done in NRL before. Not for a while, but he certainly has done it.
I don't know, those guns are so big, I don't think he can pass left to right anymore.
Yeah, that's
just
probably
fling it.
Oh, him with the shirt off is an amazing sight. Trent Peoples, one of the great
I had
names
more to
in
say,
rugby
but that's
league.
fine, we'll move on.
Oh, yeah, talk about
I'm
Madison.
allowed to rant. No, I'm not rant. The other thing I want to say is, I agree with you, I don't think he is a get before 13. And the price is now so high that I don't think you're going to pay too much more if you wait. And the other one I like for 13 is Tohu. I don't even want to see... I just want to see him play. If Tohu plays 50-plus minutes, he's coming into my team. I'm not even going to sit there and wait for a price drop.
Trent Peoples, a cheapie. He is by far he's the best cheapie this week. He's the 5th most purchased player. It's not a good week for cheapies. You're going a week early on him. Job security is a touch of an issue, but they've got Murray and Arrow out. So what happens when those two come back? Look, far from the perfect cheapie, but look, if you need to free up cash, he could be the bloke. Doesn't play 13. He's not high on my list, that's for sure. Not yet.
Murray and Host. I think Murray's still
Host.
okay. Yeah,
sorry. Yeah.
So Murray went out. Host came in to replace him. I smile. It's not an option. And it was cruel. Like, he popped the same shoulder that he popped before, and the Rabbitohs have said they think there's a fair bit of instability there, so he's going to be out a while. So Peoples is there, and Peoples played round 9, scored 60-odd points in 63 minutes, mostly in base, a few offloads. He was bloody good. That's the issue, though, right? That when Murray comes back, At best, maybe Peoples goes to the bench and becomes like a Makatoa kind of guy, 25 points and a bit of an AE nightmare and doesn't make you much money. It's a bit like Zach Wolford, who we got in this list too. I just fear that it's maybe that your job security is not great and you got to. It's a risk. It's a risk to take.
It's a big risk, I think. Even at that price, I'd certainly be waiting to have another look. News Corp is excited for its second year of Indigenous Sports Month to align with the AFL and NRL Indigenous rounds. Our goal is to use ambassadors to encourage and empower children to use sport as a pathway to success. And that is a good segue into Selwyn Cobbo, who's one of the great Indigenous players, great Indigenous youngsters coming through at the moment. And he's the 7th most purchased player this week. Started pretty slowly, had a lot of errors over the first month, but he's starting to find his feet. There was some chat that he would play fullback this week with Tamari Martin in doubt, but Tamari Martin has trained today and he will play. So Selwyn will be on the wing. I think he's a bit too expensive to be going for now, but well done to the super coaches who held, because he's paying you back big time now.
I really dislike Cobbo. Because he's making me like Queenslanders, and I don't do that happily. Mum's a Queenslander, and it's a shame on the family. It's like a stain, and I just really struggle with. You watch Selwyn Cobbo, you listen to him in post-match interviews, and you just like the kid, like he's just a nice human being, and it's really disappointing. But in SuperCoach terms, if you want me to stop talking about how I feel about them as an individual, I agree with everything you said, Thomas.
Joseph Sawali, he's one of the most hyped youngsters. We hadn't really seen it until the last couple of weeks, but he's really fired the last couple of weeks.
You haven't been standing on the Tibby Cotter Bridge, my friend. Oh, it's a show. It's a show.
Oh, image. Can you talk us through the Tibby Cotter Bridge?
It's my stalking point where I sort of hide behind the bridge and just have
it's the overpass at Moore Park
where you're
watching
the
Roosters
train. I pretend to be walking the dog, but really it's just I'm just watching Sawali. Yeah.
Look, he's expensive now. You should have got on a long time ago, and he is one of the most popular players already. Would you be going out of your way to get him now, given that he does cover 13? So there's decent coverage there.
Yeah, look, he and Cobbo are kind of in the same boat, aren't they? They're similar wingers. They're try scorers. They're not humongous workers as far as runs go. If I didn't have one of them, I'd probably be tempted to chase one. If I was a Queenslander, maybe I'd go after Cobbo. As a New South Welshman, perhaps Swarley.
Isaac Targo is one of the most purchased players this week,
Yo-yo.
having been one of the most sold players for a couple of weeks before that. So I just want to point out that we both did say hold, and there's probably, unless you want to say anything else on it, we can just move on to some questions.
No.
That's it. Just mic drop there, and we'll go to a question. How do Magic round stats stack up against normal rounds? Big factor there is that it was raining all weekend, so...
Tom Sangster's Magic round stats
were sensational.
Sensational, yeah.
A lot of money.
Schooners done.
A lot of money got spent, that's for sure. The bank account stats weren't looking particularly impressive.
There were some big scores though, right? Like if we're going to talk Supercoach, I mean, Adam Reynolds got 100 in the halves. I go absolutely blank. No, Papali'i scored well. There were scores put on by backs or by forwards. Even the rain, the slightly chopped up surface, I think they were still pretty commensurate.
There we go. Angus Crichton out and kick out in. Thoughts on that? That's from Mitch Webb. You've been watching Crichton train from the Cotter Bridge or whatever it's called.
I mean, Crichton's helped now, right, by Victor Radley's injury. So even though he was playing 80 before, you think you're absolutely locked into 80 now. There's also a fear that he goes to Origin. I think he probably does on sort of being the incumbent, and his form's perhaps not as good as it's been before, but I think he'll probably get picked. So kicks gives you a round 13 number. We talked about Kikau yesterday, and that's that he's sort of he hasn't got the base to be super reliable. He doesn't go really big because he hasn't got the base on which to put his attacking stats. So his best game's 85-90, which is perfectly fine. He just keeps scoring tries and assisting them at the moment, but you're going to have a couple of games of 30s. That's my fear with kicks, and particularly maybe round 13 when he hasn't got Cleary and probably doesn't have Luai. I assume they're going to be the halves. Sort of feeding him. I think you might see you might not see the big game you're hoping for in the bye.
We'll move on to the most sold players. Xavier Coates is top of the list. Speaking of yo-yos, he has been a yo-yo. He scores some tries, it goes on a massive price rise, and then stops scoring and it comes back down again. So it's going to be like this all year. I'd be tempted to sell. He's at a decent price. He's made a fair bit of cash. Doesn't cover 13, so if you can cash him in for maybe someone like Joey Manu, then, or even with some dual positions, go up to Isaiah Papali'i, then definitely lock it in.
Last week was always going to be tough once Jerome Hughes went out. So he was already missing having Remus Smith as his centre, and then he lost his halfback. So he lost the guy who was bringing the ball his way, and he lost Paps swinging out to the right and bringing the ball his way. He's still going to miss Paps. He's still going to miss Remus Smith. I think you probably take your cash.
Chris Randall has done a really good job, around 200k in price rises, but Randall to Cotter is a very popular trade this week. It makes sense to me. I think it's a good trade.
Yeah.
CSC for Talakai, third most sold player. So he was second, but he has come down the list a touch. I think he's a keeper at centre wing, and he will gain centre wing status as of lockout.
Possibly,
as of next
we've
week.
still got to debate.
No, it's 100% locked in. Don't listen to Rob. It's 100% locked in. So I think he's a keeper at centre wing. He's probably not quite a keeper in the back row, but centre wing he is, and he'll cover 17.
Yeah. I mean, we gave all those stats yesterday in the show. I won't bother going sort of repeating them all. Yeah, 100%.
Yep, you've got to pay to read that article, the team's analysis article, on the website right now.
Or listen to the podcast yesterday.
We need to get some stats. Kelma Tuolangi, back to the bench this week. He's been frustrating in that he's had injuries and concussions, etc. But yeah, look, if you can sell Tuolangi, I assume a lot of people are going down to Trent Peoples to free up cash. It's a decent trade.
It's okay. I mean, I do fear that Peoples just becomes an AE, but it's not the worst at this stage of the year. Maybe to pick up one, maybe two AEs, you can live with it. Especially if you're thinking Peoples is going to play, in the buys when Arrow's going to go off to Origin. Murray, when he's fit, still not going to be there because he's going to go to Origin. So maybe Peoples will play it.
Speaking of cheapies, Will Panasini and Max King have been two of the best in SuperCoach this year. I think Panasini can get cashed in at any time because he doesn't play 13 and he's peaked in price. Max King is a different story though because he does cover 13. Yeah. So I'm tempted to hold King and then he'll be one of my first players to be sold in round 14 or 15 or whenever I get around to it after that round 13 buy.
I'm going to hold. I think it's going to cost me 40k, but I can live with that.
I mean, yeah, his price is going to stay fairly steady. He's such a consistent performer for SuperCoach. Wasn't that great in Magic Round, but hopefully he can just bang out mid-40s for us for another few weeks before he gets cashed in. Cameron Murray, Ryan Pappenhausen, both injured, both out relatively long-term, so this makes sense.
Rad's the same.
And you can say the same for Victor Adley too, unfortunately out for about 6 weeks with an ankle issue. And then Lachlan Ilias, 10th most sold. I sold a while ago. Look, again, he's made his cash, doesn't play 13. Decent cheapie, but it's time to get rid of him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm holding only because the one trade I was going to make was Lachlan Ilias out for Dejan Arce. But Chanel Harris-Davida's now on the reserves at the Warriors, and you'd have to think if he doesn't get promoted this week, probably plays the week after. That doesn't sound good, Tom. I haven't got a natural replacement for Ilias, but I can see why people sell. What do we got?
We've got a budding sub-editor on the questions.
Lovely.
Actually, Peter Waltman saying, can someone show Rob how to use spell checker before he posts articles saying ricks and diamonds?
Oh, well, thank you. Sorry, what was his name?
Peter Waltman.
Thank you, Peter. I will take that on advisement. I do my best, but as I've been told since I was a young boy, my best is still pretty crap.
Thoughts on Tupu? Always safe and always a pod. I guess the question mark there is whether he does play Origin. He's not quite in the realm, is he?
Well, what are the wings going to be? I hadn't thought of it. I mean, I assume it's going to be To'o and Addo-Carr. So Toops probably misses out on that basis.
An injury he could be in easily, though. Yeah. What have we got here? Panasini, a hold. We've just both said that he should be cashed in before round 13.
I think he's made his money. He's doing nothing wrong.
He's okay. I mean, you can play him in your 17 most weeks, is the thing.
Yeah.
How many trades have you guys got?
I have 23, which is not enough.
Yeah, I've got 24 as well, although I've got an extra couple up my sleeve.
Well, you've got
Rob donated. No, you donated them to me. That's how it works.
Oh, is it? So I thought you just got given bonus trades, but you're like Voldemort. You like suck them out of other people. Right?
Yeah, that's how it works.
That is cruel. But it does explain your success.
Ask Rob for the extra trades on the QR code.
Let me see. Tom Sangster's mobile is 04. No.
It definitely starts with 04. So what else we got here? There's not many new questions coming through, so I'm winding back a long way. Panasini to Kickow via Jules.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably do that.
Kickow, I'm waiting until right on round 13 to bring him in, to be honest. He's couple of weeks and then that's it. He's out. I'm not trusting him for a big stint in my team.
I'm not getting kicks too often. If you're getting him, then you're getting him and selling him, right? You're not holding him.
Yeah, exactly. He's just to get through 13 and that's
With 23 trades, I've got 13 people for 13. I don't have enough to be getting a guy, to be selling a guy. I'm really trying to only get guys that I'm going to keep or that are going to make me money and then sell.
This is a good question. Matt Jesus Corny is asking, Garrick, Manu, or Guacamole? I'm not sure who Guacamole is.
I believe that is Supercoach slang for Homoli.
Right. Yeah. So you'd need... I mean, they're in different positions. But
you got the jewels.
With the jewels, you can swing it. Garrick, Manu, or Hamoli Alokatau?
Personally, I'm Garrick.
Yeah.
And then Tohu as my second rower instead of Hamoli. But no massive argument between Garrick and Manu. I just, when it's close, I go the goal kicker.
Rod Moroney is asking, keep Turbo and Burbo or burn two? First of all, I think keep Turbo. Hopefully he's got a couple of decent games in him. And Burbo, as soon as he takes the field again, which is hopefully in round 13, we will see a decent price rise for him. So given that he does cover 13, I'm holding. I don't think I'd be selling either of the Trebojevic brothers at the moment.
No, I just want to see them back at Four Pines Park, which is a lovely beer, by the way. Didn't get anything last time, but if you guys want to send it to us at News Corp, Tommy and I will gratefully receive it.
Madison or Cotter could both play Origin, and so I'm flipping a coin here. I'd go Cotter because he covers 13. That's the only.
Cotter because he covers 13 and his dual position. It could be pretty useful. Like if Harry Grant goes down with a long-term injury and you've got Cotter sitting there at second row, you're laughing. Well, you're not laughing. I mean, obviously you wouldn't be laughing. It'd be tragedy for Harry and Queensland. But if he went down, say, from round 13 through to...
Look, we have got to go. There's a free sausage sizzle downstairs. The democracy sausage is in the building, so we've got to scoot off. But big thanks to Rob. We'll catch you for the Countdown show, 7 p.m. on Thursday. See you then.
Cheers.